Okay, hello everyone. I'm Stephen Bartkus. I'm the Executive Director of the Ridgefield Historical Society. Today is Tuesday, November 18th, 2025, and I'd like to welcome you to the Ridgefield History Club here at the Scott House at 4 Sunset Lane in Ridgefield, Connecticut. The topic of today's discussion is going to be the homes of the 2025 Ridgefield Holiday House Tour. The Ridgefield Historical Society is dedicated to collecting, preserving, and sharing the remarkable history of Ridgefield, Connecticut, and we welcome you to get involved in the important work that we do for the community. Thank you to all of our members in attendance, and for those of you who are not yet members of the Historical Society, please consider joining us and helping us work on these important tasks to preserve and share Ridgefield's history. We have a few people I'd like to introduce today. Number one, right here we have Llewellyn Chang. He's the co-chair of the Ridgefield Holiday House Tour. Llewellyn, say hi to everyone.
Hi everyone. Thanks for coming.
Llewellyn has been working so hard on this tour, along with Janet Graves, our operations manager here at the Historical Society, and a whole committee of people, including Sally Sanders, who's in charge of the marketing for the event. And we are co-chairing this really important fundraiser with Tiger Hollow. So this is a joint fundraiser for both nonprofit organizations. And of course, Tiger Hollow maintains the sports fields at Ridgefield High School that all the students play their games at. It's going to be a really, really great event. And we are so excited about the 6 homeowners who have opened their amazing homes for you all to view on this tour. And I'm happy to report that the 11 a.m. tour has sold out. We've had a tremendous response. We have a few tickets left for the 9 a.m. tour and the 1 p.m. tour. So if anyone here or watching on Facebook is interested in participating in the tour, please go to RidgefieldHistoryClub to get your tickets today. And we also want to mention that Lounsbury House is our headquarters for the day. We're going to have an amazing holiday market and raffle taking place there, and the market and the raffle are open to the public. So you could also purchase your raffle tickets on the House Tour website. There are a number of really amazing prizes that you could win, and the proceeds from the raffle and the holiday market also benefit the Historical Society and Tiger Hollow. I also wanted to mention that we have our new town historian, Jack Sanders, and our assistant town historian, Betsy Reed, in attendance today. Let's give them a round of applause for their new appointments. The Board of Select Persons made those appointments at last month's meeting. Much deserved, and we're so honored to have you and share your wisdom and knowledge with us about Ridgefield's history. So we have a few special guests who are going to be leading the discussion today. So on the right here we have Melanie Marks of CT House Histories and April Pereira of Pereira. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Of Stoop Sleuths.
Can you see kind of?
These ladies are professional historians, and we are so fortunate to have them and grateful for their involvement here at the Historical Society. So they are volunteers, and they serve on the Historical Society's Historic Preservation Committee, and they work really hard for us, preserving Ridgefield's historic character. They also do the research for the Historical Society's House Plaque Program. So if you're interested in obtaining a plaque for your home here in Ridgefield, you can fill out a form on our website, and they generously volunteer their time to conduct the research that will allow you to get a plaque for your home. And they also offer a whole range of services. If you're interested in having research done on your home, both of them conduct that for you, and you could go to their websites, which they're going to talk a little bit more about, and you could sign up and hire them to conduct amazing research on the people who lived in your home. I think with that, I would like to hand it over to April and Melanie to begin the discussion of the homes on the Holiday House Tour that they have helped research. Thank you so much for all the research that you've done.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm just going to start off by saying we couldn't have done this without the help of the staff here at the Ridgefield Historical Society, and more specifically, Jack and Sally Sanders. Jack is an institution, and when we take on these projects, we go, oh, because we have to talk to Jack, and we want to make sure that we did them right. And he has been such a tremendous help with us on these house tour research projects. Stephen gave us the task at the end of August and said, we need a little help. Can you do 6 houses? Actually 7, and we need it by September 2nd. And April and I kind of looked at each other, sure, we can do it, we'll get it done. And we have been slamming for quite a few months now, and we're happy to say that they are done, and we're excited about the tour. And I just wanted to just kind of walk through a little bit of how we start our projects. We typically go to the town assessor's office, we pull the field card, that's where we get the current owner and the deeds, and we work back until we have no house. And that's how we know that the house, approximately when it was built. We also pull the HRI forms, and I'm not sure if people are familiar with the HRs. They look like this. They were done in 1979 and then again in 1983. The town adopted into the Certified Local Government Program in January of, I think, 2009. And it's a preservation, they work with the State Historic Preservation Office, and it's to help towns learn how to preserve their historic properties. And we are currently in the process of updating it. We've hired consultants, and I believe that we're supposed to be, and Betsy, you might be able to answer that, I think we have maybe almost 600 new additions to the historic resource inventory, and that's in the process right now. But those are the 2 main ones that we pull, and then we end up, pulling cemetery records, vital records, tax records that are in the tax assessor's office, genealogical records, it goes on and on, cemetery records, everything that you possibly could imagine. Oral histories are very important, people's memories of the houses. And so we pull all of this together and we create a timeline of the houses. And this is, I just wanted to bring this. This is one of my houses that I did, but April's got the same thing. This is the Benedict house. And once we know all of our people from doing the title search, then we end up pulling it together to concise into a narrative that we can share with you. So when we do full house histories, we could end up with 8 of these binders. So it's a labor of love. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to my sleuthing partner in crime, partner in crime, April.
I say often, Melanie and I have never met a rabbit hole we didn't love. And we've made a name for ourselves. We have so much fun doing this, especially if we're like in the same room and at town hall. You'll hear one of us yell, "Oh my gosh, there you are!" And we find somebody deep in the land records. So yes, my name is April Carrera. I am a Ridgefield native, Ridgefield High School class of '86. Go Tigers! I'm sorry, I can't call Mr. Nichols Pete ever because he was a teacher when I was at high school. And I will never call Mrs. Sir Philippi Barbara either because I worked for Rex Gustafson and Paul McNamara, and so I saw Mrs. Sir Philippi almost every day at the town hall. And so I love seeing her signature on all sorts of deeds and everything from when she was town clerk. So, the houses I'm going to talk about, this is the first one. And this one is named the Book Barn. So if you look on the website, it has a plaque that says the Book Barn. And so the Book Barn is currently a home. that was once a barn, and in between it was a bookshop. And it has quite a story. So, and it starts with this feisty, plucky gal named Emmy Sloan. This is her picture from her passport application in 1921. She was born in the 1870s in Pennsylvania, and by 1925, she'd been married and divorced. She had served as the head of a YMCA canteen in France during World War I, which was a place soldiers coming off the front could rest. And in 1925, she was working at the U.S. Naval Hospital in the D.C. area, probably in Bethesda. Well, Emmy also wanted a barn. And in 1927, when she was writing an essay about the history of the book barn, she wrote, "The barn bee of many years, lodging in my bonnet, was buzzing loudly and goadingly, and having a week's liberty due to me for my Red Cross Naval Hospital work, I set forth for the Nutmeg State, resolved that I must find a barn." And so she came to Wilton to see some friends, and they decided today is the day. And they literally started driving around looking for a barn. And they ran into a fellow named T. Winfield Scott, who in the fall of 1925 was 78 years old and living on his family farm, the Scott farm, which had been in his family for about 100 years by that point. And he inquired, "Do you know of a barn that I could maybe buy?" Mr. Scott said, "Well, I have a barn," and took her to see the Scott barn, which was falling down and lonely, dilapidated. Emmy fell in love, and she bought the barn and 2 acres of land from Mr. Scott in November of 1925. Well, by 1926, the spring of 1926, she wanted to live at her barn all the time. So she quit her job, moved into the barn, which was not yet habitable, and worked. I'm not kidding. She had some pluck. And she worked with the workers. She slept on an army cot, worked with the workers to make it a home, knew she had to make a living, and said, well, a book business is a great business to run from a barn. So she started the book barn. And this is these pictures are weird, but this was supposed to be last. But she had and you'll see a picture of the building in a second. This was her sign. And the current owners have her sign. If you like books, you are welcome. Come in and look around. These are all out of order. This was supposed to be super last. This may be Emmy. This was a recently shared with me photo. This is the interior of the book barn. I call it the book barn when it was naked. And you'll see in other pictures these beams. So these are the original beams of the actual barn that used to house cows and horses. There we go. There is the book barn. This is the barn she purchased.
Wow.
And so it started off as a mail order business. Eventually, pretty quickly, it turned into, she opened her doors and welcomed people in, and she had used books for sale, magazines, tea, cake, and she said this is a cart, you can't quite see it, but this was an old cart on her front lawn, and this sign said, and it was discount books a la carte. Isn't that clever? And that's her dog, a collie mix named Barbie. I texted the owner this morning to find out the name of the dog. So that is Barbie. And so this is the book barn. This is, I don't know if you can see, this is the interior of the book barn. So it became well known pretty quickly as a charming place to visit. Emmy had her own reputation of being a charming, interesting gal. And it was a warm, cozy, inviting place to come and visit. This fireplace she helped build is built from boulders off the property. And that fireplace, this is all still standing. These beams are still standing. And so can you imagine coming in, out for a drive, come in, sit by the fire, look at a book or a magazine, have some tea, some cake, and visit with people. And it became well known. And so reporters would come from all kinds of publications. Vogue wrote about it, Harper's Bazaar. This is in the 20s and 30s. the Hartford Courant, all kinds of publications talking about this charming place and its very interesting proprietors. So this is, if you were sitting in that chair by the fireplace, this would be your view of the French doors, books here, everywhere. Now, I don't know if you can see, but here in the little nooks and the beams, she would stick books. And the current owner does the same thing. People would send postcards all over the country about this wonderful place, the Book Barn. And this is a current picture of the fireplace. So it looks very similar. These beams, the rafters in the attic are all original to the barn, which Emmy understood to be 150 years old in 1925. I have not confirmed that, but it was an old barn, for sure. Now, let me just let that sit there for a second. So, the Book Barn went on until the early 1940s. With the advent of World War II, things became scarce. There's no telling exactly when the Book Barn closed, but it was somewhere between 1940 and 1945, and in 1945 she sold the property and went and moved to Ohio. She was now remarried and she had a daughter. During the war, she worked for Sikorsky as a Rosie the Riveter, because of course she did. And the barn then went on to a series of owners, including Dolores and Sperry Andrews, who were artists who were very instrumental with your farm, to its current owners. Now, I have this picture up because if you noticed, the Book Barn has changed shape. Melanie and I find over and over again that houses are varying degrees of straightforward. The Book Barn was a pretty straightforward place to research because we were really interested in the biography of the Book Barn and of Emmy and of how that came to be, this magnificent, charming place that was beloved. But there is a little bit of a mystery. Now, Jack, you've written about the Book Barn, and in one of your entries in the old Ridgefield page, you surmise that her neighbor across the street, G. Evans Hubbard, may have sold her the barn and moved it across the street, and that's how the Book Barn started. Well, G. Evans Hubbard was her neighbor across the street, but not until Mr. Scott passed away in the spring of 1926. However, the Book Barn has changed shape, and I am not sure when this postcard was taken, but it was still the Book Barn. In the first picture I showed you, the Book Barn was just this structure and this structure. There's the books a la carte. Her dog was sitting right there. But now, there's this structure. It's gone from a T shape to an H shape. Well, I wonder if Mr. Hubbard didn't sell her a barn on his property and move it across the street for her and slap it onto the southern end of the structure. I don't know. He had a penchant for moving barns, because if you look at his built house across the street, you can see the original structure and you can see the barn he stuck on the north side of his house. It's pretty clear. So that is a mystery, a little mystery about the Book Barn. That one day perhaps I will be able to see, we'll be able to confirm if that is what happened. I think it's likely that that's what happened.
That's another rabbit hole.
It is a total rabbit hole, 100%. So we're back to when the Book Barn. It looks so different now, right? Well, I have to say, the owners who own it now also purchased the barn when it was dilapidated and lonely and falling down. It was a wreck. And if you come and visit the Book Barn during the house tour, the owner will tell you how she just had to have this house. And they bought it, and we're so fortunate to be able, it is magnificent inside. And very much, you feel the Book Barn in there. So, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to reveal where it is or who owns it, but it's still a very special place.
I'm curious, does anyone in attendance have any stories about the Book Barn? Do you remember your parents or grandparents ever talking about this destination in Ridgefield?
it was also a place, since Emmy, she'd seen the carnage of World War I up close. And so she was very much involved in groups in town that were dedicated to peace, especially as World War II was starting to percolate. So it was it was also very much a meeting place, and I found newspaper articles saying, oh, such and such meeting of the Women for Peace at the Book Barn, things like that. So, and you can definitely feel the echoes of the time in it, even though it's updated now for modern living, but it's still very, you can still feel like you're going back in time in it. Okay, now I'm going to try and back out of this to go to my next house, which... One more time, thank you.
Sure.
There we go. Right there.
Without you.
I know. Okay, so this house, I'm sorry, so this house is also magnificent and beautiful, and not as straightforward. Oops,
You can just hit that pause and then you can back up.
I'll go back, okay.
Yeah.
If it goes, so this house,
There you go.
this is the William D. Jones house. Now, I'm going to emphasize his middle initial because he had a son, William M. Jones. And here's what we know for sure. The titles all the way back is pretty straightforward. Get to Mr. Jones, who was a shoemaker and a farmer in town. He was also a musician. And in 1840, December of 1840, he got married. And he married a woman named Julia Ann Mead, who's the daughter of Nehemiah Mead. Am I saying that right, Jack? Nehemiah? Do you think? You don't know. Okay, we're going to say that all right. Nehemiah. With Nehemiah Mead, who was a very prominent farmer, very active in town. And this is where William D. Jones and Julia raised they had three boys, one of whom, John, passed away in his early 20s, but two others, William M. and Walter, lived into the early 20th century and passed away in their mid to late 70s. So this is, when Melanie says that what we do is trace the title back to land, this is the deed conveying to William D. Jones land, a piece of land on Potash Hill. And I think I have the exact, here, maybe I can read it here, not easily. This is, here we go. For consideration of $200 received to my full satisfaction of William D. Jones of said Ridgefield, do give, grant, bargain, sell, and confirm unto the said William D. one certain piece or tract of land, no buildings, situated in said Ridgefield near Potash Hill, so called, containing 3 acres and bounded northerly, easterly, and southerly on highway, and westerly on my own land. We bought it from a man named Robert C. Edmonds. So, first of all, our work can be a series of deductive reasoning steps. And so this is on Potash Hill. It fits the geography of the area at the time, and it's land. So I went to the wonderful owners and said, I think, if he bought this in 1842. Like, your house was built somewhere around 1842 because I have it down to land. Well, it should be, okay, done, that's sort of the plaque. Well, no, not that easy. Because here they have this beautiful fireplace and a Dutch oven. And this isn't just any fireplace, this is a triple fireplace. So it's in this particular room, it's in a room over here, and it's in the room behind this. There are 3 hearths to this one chimney. So when we have a house where the land records say it was built in whatever year, but there are structural elements that indicate, well, there's something earlier happening here. Many times it can be explained that, well, Yankees were thrifty, they salvaged beams and wood and elements from other places, or whoever built the house felt that older building methods were better, and so forth. But here we have a very heavy chimney and stove. Plus, in the 1840s, a new house would have been unlikely to have built a beehive oven, because by this time, iron stoves were readily available and affordable, and more reliable than a beehive oven. So I have been working with the owners who are amazing, and working with Phil Esser, who's an architectural historian with the Historical Society, and an architect named John Kinnear, who is very well schooled in colonial building methods, to try and marry these facts. And we're not quite there, but the thought is that what likely happened is that there were remnants of a house here. Maybe there was a chimney still standing. And so Mr. Jones built up his house around whatever was there, because the foundation also indicates the 18th century.
Mm-hmm.
But the land records do not. There's like a 100-year gap, almost. So the next step, actually I'm doing this, Melanie and I are both headed to town hall after this talk, is to go back even further. I've got it back to the early 1800s and it's still land, but to look at the conveyances to see if I can find any indication of any building ever.
Now, hold that thought. So
Yeah.
April and I were speaking about this the other night, and I said to her, if he bought the land and it was just the chimney that was standing and no other part of the house, they wouldn't have written into the deed that there were buildings there on standing. It would have been a fragment of a house.
Right.
So, and they're not going to put, oh, he buys 3 acres and an old chimney in the deed. So that's where we're at with this one with
Yep.
April, and there's a lot of things that we've talked about and how we can prove that, which we're still working on. But you have to work with what's in the deed. That's what they wrote back, and that's the closest to history that we can take it. So.
Yeah. So I will see what I can find and then work with the owners to decide what goes on the plaque that is historically accurate but encompasses what we know of the history of the house, which could be William D. Jones' homestead in the years he was alive. He had it from 1742 until 1896 when he died, and his son sold it. And then maybe another entry about whose farm this once was, or maybe put Potash Hill, something that at least puts a little touch back further. Whatever, but it's whatever we can back up. Yeah, whatever we can back up with documentation. And so we're back to the front of that house, which I hope you're all going on the tour. This house is just, they're all so magnificent. One other house I wanted to talk about that I don't have a picture of is the rectory for St. Stephen's, which is also on the tour. And I have a little bit of a history of that, which we did not research. There was so much research going on for St. Stephen's 300th birthday, which is astonishing and amazing. And so, forgive me for reading this, but this is the story of the rectory, which I didn't realize there was so much drama around the rectory, but apparently there was. Built in 1916 it's over 100 years old, to accompany the newly completed St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, which is celebrating its 300th anniversary. The rectory was designed in a colonial style by architect William Sunderland of Danbury. Its construction followed spirited, lovely word, debate within the parish, as some members urged for a stone building to match the church, while others, led by prominent parishioners Mr. and Mrs. F.E. Lewis, insisted on a simpler wooden colonial design, which ultimately prevailed. The rectory replaced an earlier home just north of the church that had served as the minister's residence since 1887 and was moved to Katuna Street. With its classic proportions and enduring character, the rectory continues to serve as the residence for the rector of St. Stephen's, standing as his testament to the parish's early 20th century vision and community spirit. Do you all know where the rectory is? It's a beautiful, it's a white colonial, right? It has black shutters on it. It's breathtaking.
And Stephen, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that covered in the history club?
Yeah.
a week ago or last week?
Yes,
Okay.
that was our topic for October.
Okay,
That's one.
so there's homework.
So I am now going to turn it over to Melanie, who's going to talk to you about the houses she's been researching and the binders she's been building.
Yes,
So we're
yes.
going
We're
to swap out.
gonna try and maneuver through the
Okay, so let me
images.
get out of the way.
And I'm cognizant of the time, it's 20 till. and
Oh
so-
gosh, I'm so sorry.
No,
It
no,
took
no,
so
no,
much
no,
time.
no, no, no. I can do this very quickly. Because I'm gonna have to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or you better over here.
Always in the green.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
I wish my computer was better than this.
When
But your husband's painting landscape.
It just seems crazy.
Yep. We'll just kind of meander through.
Color of it.
So 40. So I had the pleasure of how to undo 1740 and support my 1833. And because I wanted it to be accurate and be able to explain my 1833, which is the land records. And they go all the way back to when Edwin Benedict bought the property from his father. It was a quitclaim land swap with his dad. And in the deed, it said, Benjamin, his father, is saying, I'm giving you, my son, this 3 acres where your house now stands. So I can at least prove the house was there in 1837. Edwin got married. He was born in 1805. He was a twin with his brother Edward. And he married Catherine Nash, Osborne. She was a widow. Her first husband had died, and they married. Edwin and his wife married in 1833. So, 1833, 1837. Maybe Dad wanted to see if he could prove himself and build a house now that he's married, and then he finally deeded it to him in 1837. That's my working theory. So step B was I had to explain this to the owners because they have 1740. We have no supporting documentation to show why it was built in 1740. And so I photographed this and sent it to the owners and said, I was going to gift this to you because I don't need it, so you ruined that surprise. But they're on board with the 1833 and with everything that I walked them through. And I've asked them if they would either cover up the plaque or take it down so that there's no confusion when people are coming into the house tour and they see 1840 and I'm talking 1833. So Edwin lived in the house until he died in 1876, and it went to his wife, and they had 2 daughters. Catherine died in 1883, and the girls had already moved to Norwalk. One was married, one was not, and they decided to sell the property out of the family. And in 1883, the girls sold it to a very prominent architect, winemaker. He married into a very wealthy Cincinnati family, the Longstruts. Her father was the first billionaire in Cincinnati. And William Flagg kept it for about 10 years, and then he sold it to, we're going to find Mr. Schaefer here now. Right here. Dr. Schaefer bought the property in 1889. He was also a very prominent orthopedic. He was the first orthopedic surgeon in New York, I think in the country. That one didn't come out very well. He was very good friends with President Theodore Roosevelt. When he had a leg injury, he was the one that was on the staff with other doctors to help. He bought the house, and my theory is, based on everything else and what Jack has told me, he bought the Benedict homestead and used it as his country home until he bought the property next door. He amassed almost 44 acres. And so he used that as his country home until he built his grand estate. I think we kind of narrowed it down around 1906. And we'll go back to that next one with the house that hopefully turns out. Oh, it's kind of blurry, but this was Beacon Hill Cottage that sat next door to the house that's on the tour. When he had this built, and yep, but you can say that, that's fine. He used the Benedict house as the caretaker's cottage, and the Reagan family moved in, and I'll explain them next. But on this map, you'll see this was 1908. You'll see that Dr. Schaefer's estate is here, and here's his Beacon Hill, and here's the little Benedict College. Even though it says it's John Seymour, I have not tied. It was all one piece of property, and I can explain that later on. But this is his estate, and this is actually the house, but the boundaries are wrong. Okay, so we're going to go to an old photograph of 306.
First one.
No.
This house, 306.
No.
Okay.
That one is when Edwin Benedict is on there. Well, to save time, there's an old image. I'm sorry, I can't pull that one up right this minute. I don't want to take up too much time. Well, anyway, there's an old photograph of the cottage, and around 1902, John Reagan married Dr. Schaefer's cook, Mary Flanagan, and they moved into the house, and they had 3 daughters, Marguerite, Mary, and Elizabeth. And when John died, I think in 1932, his wife died in 1943, his wife continued as the caretaker for the property. Dr. Schaefer had already died in 1928, and the estate sat in a trust for his grandson, who was 15 at the time. And maybe he didn't trust his grandson getting older, so he put it in the trust that he couldn't have this property until he turned 30. So it sat kind of vacant. No one was living in Beacon Hill. The Reagans were living in the caretaker's cottage. They were managing the property, probably mowing the lawn and whatever. And they finally, Newton Hale Schaefer, the grandson, turns 30. He inherits an ungodly amount of money and this property in 1947. He has it surveyed, and he decides, I don't have anything to do with it. I'm in Princeton. I got an antique house near Princeton University. I'm happy as a clam down here. I'm not going up there in that thing. And so he sold 1 acre and the Benedict homestead to Mary and Elizabeth Reagan. And they continued to live in the house until Mary died, I hope I get this right, in 1990, and Elizabeth died in 1993. Mary had deeded it to her younger sister Elizabeth, and then that's how it trickles out of the family. But they had been in this house from 1905 until 1993, when the last of them died, and that's when it went out of the family. But to go back to the Reagan sisters, some of you may have known them. Barbara did. Yeah, Betty, yes.
I actually lived next door to them.
Okay.
They were our teachers.
Your teachers,
So
yes.
fourth
They've been
grade.
teachers for a long time.
Very long time.
Yes,
And
yes.
I can tell you from going into the house, I don't think they did much since 1905.
Yes, yes. I don't think they, and you know, it's interesting that you say that, because when you look at some of the land records, and there were tax liens on the house, and they were selling some property that they had purchased from Peter Lorenzini.
That was the Schaefer.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I learned a lot of that from, I tracked down Peter's son, Joe, who lives in California, who came here in October, and we met and commiserated over the research. But, yes, so I don't think they did a whole lot with
No,
the
that's
house.
not that I could tell.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
They were
So-
lovely.
Yes,
They
yes.
were lovely.
So, there are, and let's see if we can please find them. There's a picture of the 3 of them.
Are we looking for Reagan?
Yeah, no, we're looking, Reagan, and there's his sisters. Where are they? Because it's a sweet picture, because they're in the backyard with their dog. Where are we? No.
There were, two teachers, and then the
Marguerite
nurse,
was
the
a
youngest.
nurse. She was the
Marguerite.
oldest.
She was the oldest, she was a
the
nurse,
oldest. Yeah,
and she passed away, I think, around 72.
72, you're right. She did. And she lived here. She had a house on West Lane, I believe. But none of them married. Oh, bummer. Well, let's go on, because I've got two more houses. So anyway, there's a sweet picture of the three of them sitting in the backyard with their dog. So after Elizabeth died, it went through a series of owners to the current owner, and they absolutely love the house. And I'm just so happy that they're happy with 1833. So we'll end it with this one, and then let's go on to the other house. We're going to go to 350 Dr. That's Orchard. So this one is a little more complicated because it's not a historic house. It was built in 2011. And when April and I saw the list, she goes, 2011? How are we going to do that? So I decided it's not so much about the house, which is a grand house. It was built, I believe, by architect Peter Coffin. The millwork inside the house is unbelievable. I didn't put pictures up because I don't want you to see it. I want you to experience it because that's what I was told you have to do. So how do you explain a 2011 house on a historic house tour? So you know how they say if this house could talk? Well, I flipped it and said if this dirt could talk. And Jack was phenomenal in everything he sent me about Dr. George Shelton's property. He owned probably 70 acres up there. He bought the property, some of it, and an old house in 1901. He tore it down and he made his grand house. This is Dr. George Shelton. And I'll just give you one tidbit about his family. He grew up in Connecticut, up near, it was called Birmingham, but it was part of Derby, I believe. His father was in partnership with another man who created the metal braiding for hoop skirts. Just thought I'd throw it out there. Okay, so let's see if we can find his house. Orchard. Try clicking on any of those. All right, this is him on here's his property. It straddled into Lewisboro, and he owned this house up here too. But this is the house and the property that the current house sits on. Just to see if you can go to the next one. I'll wing it. Okay, these are the gardens of his estate, the orchard. So you can see that it was really grand. All right, let's see if we can go to another one. Okay, yes, here's Dr. Schaefer, or Dr. Shelton. I keep getting Schaefer Shelton. This is him in front of the entrance to the estate he built. It's no longer standing. And I can thank Jack for all these images. Okay, let's go to the next one. And this is the estate.
Wow.
Yes. So after he died, his wife Ida kept the property and then she sold it to James Moffett Doubleday, the son of George Doubleday, who had a history of buying houses and tearing them down and flipping them. And he tore this whole thing down and built a new house. And Jack, I believe, is his house still standing? The one that James Doubleday built in place of this?
Yeah, I believe it is, yes.
I think you're right.
In fact, we just ran across a person that lives there.
Is it 284? I'm not gonna say the street.
I don't know what the number is, but
Okay.
my recollection is that house is across the street.
I was about to say that, I think.
That's a house that's still standing.
Was this the one that they were using as
It's a cottage.
As a country cottage?
This is a
For
cottage on the
visitors, yeah.
estate.
You're right, I see
That,
correct.
not mine.
Yeah, so that's the country cottage, that wasn't his house. Yeah, all right, so let's go, yes, because that's West Lawn. So this is a realtor's ad where they're selling West Lawn. after he had died. And his wife ended up going back to New York City, I believe, after his death. But he was pretty prominent. He came up here, and I believe he was the president of, I want to say the Ridgefield Savings Bank, but it may have been the other one that followed. So he loved Ridgefield. And even though his main house was technically in Lewisboro, he didn't care. He was a Ridgefielder, and that's how he felt. And you couldn't tell him any different. So then the house that I'm doing, there was a lot of selling off of land, a lot of subdivisions, and this house is part of a 8-parcel subdivision, and that's how it came to be. But I needed to tell what was there before their house was built, and that's why I did this one. So the last one we're going to do is, I'm going to go back here, is the Bailey house. Yes, the Bailey house. This house was built by Louis Bailey. He was born in 1818 in Kent Cliffs in Putnam County, New York. And in February of 1819, his family moved to Ridgefield. I'm not sure exactly where they were living at the time, but young Louis was already in Ridgefield. By 1839, he had apprenticed as a clerk in a general store with William Hawley. And when William died, he took over the business. And he built this house, not this, in around 1867. And let's see if we can find the map.
Oh, sure.
Yes, so here's his house. He owned both of these here. And I believe that this property is where the Bailey house, or the Bailey Inn, was built. He owned a lot of property. He was very prominent in Ridgefield. There's Bailey everything, Bailey block, Bailey this, Bailey that. We had the land deeds. I won't even comment. They're sorting them apart. He was a state senator in 1875. He realized that there were a lot of, in the early or late 1800s, 1880s, 1890s, there were a lot of prominent New Yorkers that were coming up here to build their country homes. And so he jumped on the bandwagon, and he built the Bailey Inn. Let's see if we can find that one. Here's the Bailey Inn now. And this is his wife, Mrs. Samuel Keeler. Louis had already died, and so she's living in the house in the Bailey Inn's next door. And this is 267, the King House. All right, let's try and go to the next one. This is the Bailey Inn, an old postcard. And it's believed that it was built around the late, like 1889. It was shortly before he died. And it was very popular. A lot of people came and stayed. And I actually found an old postcard on eBay. I wasn't going to buy it, but I photographed it and wrote this down. But Gertie from Brooklyn is coming up here to stay. She's not bringing her husband. She's going on a retreat. And Gertie wrote to her husband in 1906, "How are you? I wish you could come up here with me. I know it would do you good. It will not be long before I will be home again. Sincerely, Gertie." So she came on a retreat, and there were a lot of postcards, a lot of things written about this inn, which is it's pretty fascinating. Let's see if we can find Lewis's obituary. All right, here's the postcard. I snapped it from my computer. But this is another person. This isn't. I don't think. Oh yeah, it is Gertie. This is Gertie. Yeah. She's writing to William. Sorry you couldn't come with me. Now this is Lewis's obituary. He died in I'm gonna look, I have it here in my notes. He died in, I may find it. Well, let's go back here, because it doesn't say on there. I have it here. No, I have it, sorry. exactly. I thought I wrote it down. Oh, he died in 1889, I'm sorry, in July. So this would be consistent with the July 30, would have run after him. And you can see, he's talking about, they're talking about his work with Mr. Hawley, the store owner. And this is where I pulled a lot of his information. He was very prominent. So that's the Bailey House. And when his wife had already predeceased him in 1869, so he was just living here with his daughter, or Villa, I think was her name. I think that's, I think then we have his gravestone. Yes, so this is his gravestone in Ridgefield Cemetery, and sadly it's fallen over. And this we see all the time in a lot of these cemeteries. And I've spent a lot of time over the years working with the Connecticut Gravestone Network. My good friend Ruth Shapley Brown is the executive director there. We've gone all over the state writing these headstones. I spent years working in the Greenfield Hill Cemetery. I live in Fairfield, but Ridgefield is my second home, so I'm trying to get my husband to buy a house here. I don't know if that's going to work. It was certainly end my commute, coming up here. But this, unfortunately, his headstone is down, and hopefully some of these can be righted so that they last for another 100 years. So those are my 3 houses. So, Steve and I opened it up to
Thank you so much, Melanie and April. Does anyone have any questions for them about the homes featured on the Holiday House Tour this year? Any of the people who lived in them, the stories, the history?
I'd like to ask a question about your first home.
Mm-hmm.
The picture you showed at the end, what happened to all the ends of the barn? I mean,
It's still,
the house looks so different now.
well, it looks so different because of the angle that photo was taken at.
Okay.
So that angle is taken from just on the corner of that southern barn.
Okay.
But if you looked at it head on from the
It's still
street,
there.
it's still, you still see the shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Stephen, if I might just make one comment. I did touch on the historic resource inventories, and as much as I love them and the work that we do with them, there are times where the dates that are on here are not accurate. And when they completed these reports, they weren't to do a complete title search on the property. They could only do what we call a windshield drive-by, and they were never allowed into the house. That's just how it was structured. And so we spend a lot of time explaining to homeowners, I know the HRI because that's the first thing they get, says, 1760, and I'll give you an example of a client of mine on Silver Spring Road. Hers said 1760 on here, but doing the complete research, and she had 9 of these binders by the time I was done. The house was really in 1805. And again, I have to explain to my lovely friend Tia now, when I delivered this, why it's not 1760. And I think she was fine with the fact that I showed her everything. And she ordered one of our plaques, and I'm happy to say it's the John Watrous Jr. House, 1805, and she's very happy with that. So we use these as a guide, but we don't use them as gospel. And I know how this process worked. I helped Fairfield get their first HRI on the books back in 2008. And so I don't want to dismiss them, but I think it's important for everybody to know that just because what's on there isn't really truth. And until you do this, you don't know the truth. And so we use them as guides. And a lot of times there are a lot of information, and there's a lot that are true and accurate, and they jive with what we've uncovered. But I just wanted to point that out because, we're working with consultants now, and they're great, and I know their work, and I know this next round is going to be really, really good. Not that these weren't. I mean, they were working with what they had, and so we have to give them a lot of credit for at least getting them on record and for the town. But I just wanted to point that out, because we do come up across that several times with houses, and they say, but my house is this, and we have to say, and then we hope we can prove it by showing them the research. So I just wanted to mention that.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone else? Yes.
What's HR?
The HRI stands for Historic Resource Inventory, and every town that adopts into the what's called a certified local government, and there's probably 60 towns in the state. It's a preservation kind of. I don't want to say it's a regulation. It's like a guide that you're committing your town to pay attention and work on your preservation of your historic buildings and houses, and so it's just like another little layer of saying you show that you care about your community and your historic buildings, and you're wanting to be a part of it. And there are parameters. The historic resource inventories are mandated that the towns have to update them every 20 years, so that will never change. So long after I'm gone, there will be others that will have to make sure that they get updated every 20 years. And that's why we're doing ours now, because the last one was in 1983. Yes.
It seemed like a lot of the buildings you were talking about, that first one, they seem to move buildings
Yes.
Oh,
a lot.
yes.
Like this building has been moved 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it was commonplace, and I can give you an example of a client I did at 43 Wilton Road West. I don't know if you've ever driven by, but it's a big white house. It's got like 5 or 6 dormers on the top. It fronts the street. I did that for a client. They were wanting to sell and move. She was a sweet lady, and her husband was ill, and I did it for them for free because I just love the couple. But in doing the genealogy of it, you have to kind of know your people. And I found that back in 1923, and I'll wrap this up quickly, Ian, no, that's a grandson, John McCune, he was Scottish, and he named his home Hame, which is the Scottish word for home. Well, I tracked down his grandson in Canaan, Connecticut, who had all the photographs of what his grandfather did to this house. He bought an old house, he rotated it, and then he took a historic house and he swung it over and slapped it onto this house. And then he facaded the whole front of it so it looked like one house and all the dormers on the top. So Sue says to me, well, I want to put a plaque up, what do we do? She's got one at this end and this end to honor the 2 houses. So yes, there was a lot of swapping. It makes our lives, because we're trying to figure out, well, it's not on the map, but now it's here. And I forget that's a you might be able to tell me. Northrop, was it in Northrop?
Caro, Northrop.
He was notorious for moving everything.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah, professional.
So, yes, it did happen. It did happen. But that's an example of, their thriftiness. I need a bigger house. His daughter was getting married, and Ian had all of the photographs, which was just so cool to see the evolution of what he did to this house in time for his daughter to get married there.
They were not only thrifty, but they were, the buildings they built were much better
Yes.
built.
Yeah.
And it was a shame to just throw them away.
Right.
Like you do now.
Right.
They could withstand being moved very easily. And it was environmentally, economically, it was made more sense to
And
just
cheaper.
move it rather than waste all that
Right.
work.
Right.
And it was done all the time.
Yeah, and a lot of them were moved with oxen and
Horses.
boards or beams. They just
Block
got them on
and
and
tackle.
drug them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no put it on a flatbed and drive it down the street. I mean, this was ox and cart and whatever. So, yeah. Yeah. So, we hope you, yes, go.
Was the house on West Lane, was that owned by, at one time, Jack Abrams? 'Cause I worked on an estate where we converted a barn into a house, right?
It's
Like the
probably
Doubleday.
part of all of that because
And
there
he
were,
subdivided it,
there
I
were
think in the
s-
2000s.
yeah, Abram,
Jack Abrams.
yes. I
Yeah,
think that was.
he died in 2017 up in, I think outside of Poughkeepsie.
Okay, yes,
I just
I'm
happened to be
seeing,
looking him up,
the-
I didn't
the-
realize he had died, but he had owned a shipping company and he owned an investment firm, and he
Okay,
was a very complicated man, but he was really interesting, and, he had a barn on his property,
okay.
and we converted that in, I mean, I was just a laborer, carpenter, and,
Okay.
converted into a
That might be
house.
that subdivision that there were like 9 new homes that
I
went
didn't realize
in.
they built that many back there.
I think
Oh,
9, yeah, I have the survey map.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful estate.
The whole area up there, and if you drive around up there, there's this really cool, thanks to Jack, there's like a little fenced-in mound of grass and with a door, and it's charming, and I didn't know what it was.
Was that
so
on the hill or the root cellar?
It's a root cellar.
Yeah.
Jack told me it's the root cellar to the estate up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe they put 9 houses on. That's terrible.
Yeah,
It's a beautiful piece of property.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
So the old house burned down, or what happened to the old house then?
No, his estate house was bought by James M. Doubleday. His father was George Doubleday, who owned Westmoreland.
Yeah.
He bought it and tore it down and built a bigger house for he and his wife, but then they decided they didn't want to live there. His wife was, I don't know, Jack, you can,
He was famous for tearing down mansions and building replacements. He did it in a number of
yes.
locations.
So this was the 2000, who was the 2011
Yes,
house?
she was a Ballard, yes.
Right?
Who built the 2011 house? Because that was the same one you
Larry
talked.
Leary,
Huh?
Thank you.
Larry Leary.
But what happened to the house before that?
It's in a different place.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Doubleday's
that's what it
house is closer to the road.
Yes,
Oh, okay,
yes.
okay.
Thank you, Sally. Yeah. It was a huge, as I said, it straddled both town lines, New York
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Connecticut. Yeah.
Oh, strange.
But we've had a blast doing them. Gosh. We've learned a lot. But,
Great. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate everything that you've done to research the homes on the Holiday House Tour and sharing those great stories with us. And thank you for all the work that you do for the Historical Society and for the community. Can you remind people, if they're interested in hiring you to do research on the people who lived in their homes and figuring out what date their house was built on, how could they reach you?
So my website is stoopsleuths.com.
What is it?
Oops.
Stoop Sleuths. I should have said that 10 times fast before I named it. But stoopsleuth.com. Stoop Sleuth.
yes, and mine is it's very simple. It's cthousehistories.com.
Great.
And the business cards are in by Janet's desk if you wanted to grab one.
And again, I'd like to remind all of you that the house tour is taking place on Saturday, December 6th, and these homes are incredible. They are architecturally significant, and they're going to be decked out for the holidays, and they have amazing history that we learned about today. So I encourage everyone here and watching on Facebook to get your tickets and support this wonderful community fundraiser for Tiger Hollow and the Ridgefield Historical Society. And I would like to remind you that our next History Club is going to be on the third Tuesday in December, and the topic is going to be Memories of Bissell's Pharmacy and other pharmacies here in Ridgefield. Unfortunately, Bissell's closed last week after many years here, and there are lots of stories and history to talk about related to Bissell's, so Jack is going to help us talk about that for next month's program. So please join us in December for the next History Club, Tuesday, December 16th at 10 o'clock here at the Scott House. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.